So this makes you think of a story too, with going back to whenever I was fantasizing about prison. I remember when I first began to notice that when I first came home, like I try to be very intentional about being like self-aware in my thought process and my emotions and how I'm feeling and why I'm feeling about certain situations. And when I began to be aware, and it would always happen when I was tired. Like I wake up in the morning, I gotta go to work. This back whenever I was working. Or I'm stressed out with a lot of responsibilities, is I would see my mind, or I'm depressed, you know what I mean? I'm sad, I'm angry, whatever it is. That's when I see my mind subconsciously go back to that thought process of like memories of prison. And I'm like, "Yo, that's sick. Why am I thinking about prison? Like, why am I fantasizing about prison?" And I remember I didn't want to tell nobody that. It's because like, especially people who were close to me, like my homies and my family, or especially like my mom, who I normally can go to and vent a lot and receive counsel from. That's like that's my homie, that's my best friend. I didn't want to express that to people, especially people who haven't done time, because it's like they ain't gonna understand, and they're probably gonna be like concerned for my health, my mental health and my emotional well being. So I didn't want to share that with nobody. So for a while, I kept that to myself. But actually, my tattoo man, who did pretty much the majority of all my tattoo work in prison, we were in the dorm together for like over 3 years. And he came home a little after I came home. And, he lives in Tampa where I live. So, that's the homie, my tattoo man, and me and him still hang out. And, we'll talk more about that later on, about us enjoying life together, because he did like over 15 years, and how we can appreciate freedom, because not everybody appreciates it because they haven't had it taken away from them. But I knew like he would understand like how I was feeling, what I was thinking. And we've actually developed a relationship here now in society to where we talk about those things, you know what I mean? About like our transition and, just adjusting back to society. So I remember one day we were on the phone and I asked him, I said, "Bro," I said, "do you ever like think about prison? Like not even intentionally? Like, do you ever just like catch your mind like drifting and thinking about prison?" He's like, "Yeah, bro, all the time." And I was like, we were talking about it. I'm like, I kind of felt relieved that I wasn't the only one. And it's funny because the whole reason why I bring that up, man, is I think that anybody who's done a lot of time, uh, or just like any trauma, man, I'm sure like people in the military who've spent like years, in the war zone or across seas, especially whenever they begin to transition back to normal life, they can see that that's a new way of living that they have to adjust back to. And part of them has been wired to only know that, and it has them always looking back to that. So those are just some side notes, man, of being institutionalized. And just speaking about the transition, from incarceration, from prison back to society, man, it's been beautiful, man.